Chosen, one pause right here. Before you scroll, before your mind wanders, before the noise of the world pulls at your attention, I need you to be still for a moment. Not out of pressure, not out of fear, but because this moment matters. What you are hearing right now is not random, and it is not interrupting your life by accident. It is a divine interruption. Heaven is asking for your full attention, not tomorrow, not when it's more convenient, not when you feel more ready, but now. This is one of those moments where everything slows down because something eternal is about to be spoken. Understand this clearly. This message is not for everyone. It was never meant to be. If you feel something in your spirit as these words reach you, that is already your confirmation. This message is reserved for the ones who survived the fire, the ones who kept going when quitting would have been easier, the ones who believed when the evidence said otherwise, the ones who endured in silence while no one clapped, noticed, or understood. You didn't arrive here by chance. You were led, drawn, positioned. Heaven filtered the audience, and if you're here, you pass that filter. The timing of this message is not coincidental either. Heaven is precise. God is intentional. This word could not have come to you yesterday, and it could not wait until tomorrow. If it had come earlier, it would have overwhelmed you. If it came later, it would have arrived too late for what is unfolding now. This is a now word released at the exact intersection of your readiness and God's plan. Heaven has been waiting for this moment, patiently holding back truth, not as punishment, but as protection, until you were strong enough to carry it. You've walked through seasons that tried to break you. You've faced pressures that refined you. You've endured losses that reshaped your heart and silences that stretched your faith. And yet you're still standing. That survival was not accidental, it was preparation. The fire did not consume you. It revealed you. And now, chosen, one, heaven is speaking because you are finally ready to hear what could not be spoken before. So stay, breathe, listen with your spirit, not just your ears. What is about to be revealed has been waiting for you longer than you realize. This is not hype. This is not coincidence. This is revelation released at the right time to the right person. And if you're here, that person is you. And now, as you remain here and your spirit leans in, it's important to understand why heaven seemed quiet for so long. Because that silence was never abandonment. It was preparation. God was not withholding truth from you because you were unworthy, forgotten, or overlooked. He was guarding you. There are revelations that carry weight, and weight requires strength. There are truths that change direction, and direction requires stability. What God was preparing to tell you could not arrive until you were mature enough to carry it without being crushed by it. There were seasons when you prayed and heard nothing. Moments when you asked questions, and heaven felt distant. Times when you wondered if God had changed his mind about you. But silence in the kingdom is often evidence of intentional timing, not divine absence. A surgeon does not rush an operation before the patient is strong enough. A teacher does not release advanced instruction before the student can comprehend it. In the same way, God waited not because he doubted you, but because he was building you. You had to heal in ways you didn't even realize were necessary. Old wounds had to close. Old identities had to fall away. Old dependencies had to be stripped, so you would no longer lean on what could not sustain you. Strength was being formed quietly beneath the surface, where no one else could see it. And that strength wasn't physical, it was spiritual, emotional, and relational with God himself. You were becoming someone who could hear truth without panic, receive instruction without fear, and carry calling without pride. This moment right now was scheduled long before you ever took your first breath, before your failures, before your victories, before the detours and delays. God already knew when you would be ready. Truth carries power, and power demands readiness. Released too early, it overwhelms. Released too late, it loses momentum. Heaven released this word at the precise moment your spirit became strong enough to hold it, steward it, and walk in it. So if you've wondered why clarity waited, why answers delayed, why understanding came in fragments, it's because you were growing into the capacity to receive the full picture. And now the silence has served its purpose. You are no longer who you were. You are ready. And to anchor what you're experiencing in truth, Scripture shows us that delay before destiny is not an exception, it is a pattern. God has always worked this way. When heaven entrusts a great calling, it first forms a great vessel to carry it. This is why your story looks the way it does, and why your journey has felt longer, heavier, and more complex than most. The Bible confirms what your life has already been teaching you. Consider Joseph. God gave him dreams while he was still young, visions of leadership, authority, and elevation. But the dream came long before the maturity required to steward it. Between the promise and the fulfillment stood betrayal by family, a pit that felt like abandonment, false accusations, a prison that looked like punishment, and years of silence where nothing seemed to move. Each delay wasn't a denial, it was a shaping. Every hardship refined his character, sharpened his discernment, and strengthened his dependence on God rather than circumstances. Joseph didn't just need the dream. He needed to become the person who could carry it without corruption, bitterness, or pride. Destiny is not about arrival alone. It's about who you are when you arrive. That same principle has been working in you. The pain you endured wasn't random. The rejection wasn't meaningless. The isolation wasn't wasted. Those seasons were forming humility, endurance, wisdom, and restraint qualities that cannot be rushed or downloaded overnight. You faced battles you didn't ask for, losses you didn't deserve, accusations you couldn't defend yourself against, seasons where you did everything right and still suffered, and yet you survived. That survival itself is evidence. Ordinary callings don't require extraordinary pressure. The intensity of the fire reveals the weight of the calling. If your destiny were small, the resistance would have been minimal. You didn't imagine the struggle. You weren't weak for feeling worn down. You were being shaped in the same way heaven has always shaped those it intends to elevate. Joseph's prison became his training ground. Your hidden battles became yours. And just as God never lost sight of Joseph, in the silence, he never lost sight of you. Survival was not luck. It was confirmation. And as you reflect on everything you've endured, this is where the perspective shifts, because the goal was never simply for your circumstances to change. Heaven was not waiting for the environment around you to improve. God was waiting for the transformation within you to be complete. Situations can change overnight, but character discernment and spiritual alignment are formed over time. What God was developing in you could not be rushed without damaging what was meant to last. There were moments when you thought, if this would just end, everything would make sense. But God wasn't measuring the calendar. He was measuring your capacity. He was watching how you responded under pressure, how you loved when love wasn't returned, how you trusted when explanations were absent. Strength was being forged in you, not as hardness, but as steadiness. Awareness was awakening spiritual sensitivity, discernment, and the ability to recognize God's movement, even when it wasn't dramatic. Alignment was taking place quietly, aligning your heart, your motives, and your desires with heaven's will, rather than your own urgency. Only now are you capable of receiving the full revelation without collapsing under its weight. Earlier, it might have inflated pride, triggered fear, or intensified pain. Now it lands differently. It settles instead of overwhelms. It confirms instead of confuses. That shift alone proves the work has been done. You are no longer reacting. You are discerning. You are no longer desperate. You are anchored. You are no longer chasing clarity. You are recognizing it. That inner resonance you feel right now is not emotional hype. It is spiritual recognition. Truth has a way of vibrating when it meets readiness. Your spirit is responding because it already knows. This is why the message doesn't feel foreign. It feels familiar, as though it's reminding you of something you always sensed but couldn't articulate. Revelation always arrives with recognition. So understand this clearly. God didn't delay because he was undecided. He delayed because he was intentional. You are not standing at the edge of change by accident. You are standing there because you've become the person who can walk forward without losing yourself. Transformation has already happened, and now revelation can follow safely behind it. And now the truth becomes unmistakably clear. You were never fighting just to survive. Survival was never the end goal. It was the process. What looked like resistance was actually refinement. What felt like loss was formation. Heaven was sculpting you for your calling, shaping you with precision, intention, and care, even when the process felt painful and confusing. A sculptor does not strike randomly. Every cut is deliberate, every pressure purposeful, every removal necessary to reveal what was hidden within the stone. Every closed door you encountered was not rejection, it was redirection. Every heartbreak you endured was not meant to destroy your capacity to love. It was expanding your discernment and depth. Every delay, every disappointment, every lonely night served as divine training. God was teaching you how to stand without applause, how to lead without validation, how to remain faithful when the outcome was uncertain. These are not traits formed in comfort. They are forged in pressure. Pain has a way of exposing weakness, but under God's hand, it also builds authority. You learned empathy because you suffered. You gained wisdom because you were misunderstood. You developed resilience because you were required to keep going without answers. This is how leaders are formed, not through ease, but through endurance. This is how warriors are shaped not by avoiding battle, but by surviving it. This is how light bearers are prepared, not by remaining hidden, but by learning how to carry light without being consumed by darkness. What you thought was breaking you was actually revealing you. Your identity was being clarified in the fire. You are not ordinary, and ordinary paths were never meant to contain you. That is why your journey felt heavier, your resistance stronger, your isolation deeper. You were being prepared to shift environments, influence others, and stand firm when others retreat. This season was never about shrinking you. It was about strengthening you. You were being sculpted into someone who could carry authority without arrogance, compassion without compromise, and purpose without fear. The pain did not disqualify you. It qualified you. And now the shape is emerging. What heaven has been forming in secret is ready to be seen. And as this understanding settles into your spirit, it becomes necessary to remove a lie that has followed you for far too long. The belief that what you went through was punishment. It was not. Heaven was never angry with you, distant from you, or disappointed in you. God never forgot you, not for a single moment. Every season you walked through was overseen, measured, and allowed with purpose. What felt like abandonment was actually preparation, unfolding quietly behind the scenes. The resistance you faced was not proof of weakness. It was evidence of destiny. The enemy does not waste energy attacking what carries no future. He does not target what poses no threat. You were opposed because something about your life carried weight, influence, and future impact long before you could see it yourself. The pressure was intense because the potential was significant. Ordinary paths never fit you because you were never designed for ordinary outcomes. This is why you always felt out of place in environments that seemed to work for others. Why shallow conversations drained you. Why settling never felt like peace. Why comfort felt restrictive instead of satisfying. There was always something inside you that refused to shrink, even when shrinking would have made life easier. That wasn't rebellion, it was identity. You were marked for something more, even when you didn't yet have language for it. Shame has no place here. Victimhood has no authority over your story. You are not unlucky, behind, or defective. You were chosen. Chosen does not mean exempt from struggle. It means entrusted with refinement. God trusted you with pressure because He trusted what He placed inside you. And despite every attempt to derail you, diminish you, or distract you, you're still here, still believing, still listening, still responding. Let this truth replace every false narrative. You were not being punished. You were being prepared. You were not overlooked. You were being protected. You were not forgotten. You were being positioned. The attacks were never about your past. They were about your future. And now that the preparation is complete, heaven is reaffirming what has always been true. You are chosen. You always were. And now everything converges into this present moment, because what you are sensing is not anticipation alone. It is activation. A shift has already taken place in the unseen, and its effects are beginning to surface around you. This is not a season you are approaching. It is a season you've entered. Spiritual promotion is no longer pending. It is active. What once felt delayed is now moving, and what once felt resisted is now yielding. The warfare you've been feeling recently was not random escalation. It was final resistance. The exhaustion that settled into your spirit, the pressure that intensified without explanation, the weight that seemed heavier than any previous season. These were signs, not setbacks. Transition always creates turbulence. When a door is about to open, resistance increases. When elevation is near, opposition grows louder. The enemy fights hardest when time is running out. You were not losing strength. You were outlasting the final phase. Heaven waited until you survived the most difficult stretch, not because God doubted you, but because survival itself was the final qualification. Endurance completed the work. Faith held through uncertainty. Obedience remained intact, even when clarity was absent. And now heaven's verdict has shifted from testing to entrusting. This is why things feel different, even if they don't look different yet. Your spirit knows something has changed. There is a quiet authority rising within you, a steadiness where anxiety used to be, a clarity forming where confusion once lingered. These are not emotions, they are indicators. You crossed a threshold. You did not quit. You did not collapse. You did not turn away. And heaven took note. The declaration has already been released in the unseen. They are ready. Ready to carry what was withheld. Ready to steward what was delayed. Ready to walk without fear into what once felt too heavy to imagine. Heaven did not speak prematurely, and it did not speak too late. It spoke on time. So if you feel the shift, trust it. If you sense momentum, don't resist it. You are not stepping into chaos. You are stepping into alignment. The season has changed. The activation has begun. And as this activation settles, the future that once felt distant begins to come into focus, because a new chapter is not approaching, it is unfolding now. What was hidden is being unveiled, not all at once, but with precision and mercy. God does not overwhelm. He reveals in layers, each one matched to your capacity to carry it with peace. This next season is marked not by striving, but by alignment. Not by confusion, but by clarity. Not by noise, but by a deep, unshakable peace that confirms you are exactly where you are meant to be. Doors are opening that cannot be shut, not because of effort, but because of timing. These are not opportunities you will have to chase. They will recognize you. You will notice things beginning to move without force. Conversations aligning naturally. Invitations appearing unexpectedly. Access granted where resistance once stood. This is favor becoming visible, not hidden, not private, but public. What was cultivated in secrecy is now being trusted in the open. You will also notice a shift in relationships. Draining connections will lose their grip. not through conflict, but through clarity. Divine connections will replace them. People who recognize your value, honor your calling, and walk with you rather than pull from you. These connections will not feel chaotic or confusing. They will feel familiar, affirming, and purposeful. Alignment attracts alignment. Breakthroughs in this season will arrive suddenly, not because they weren't prepared, but because they were prepared quietly. What took years to build will manifest quickly. What felt stalled will move swiftly. What seemed impossible will resolve with ease. Sudden does not mean random. It means the groundwork is complete. Peace will become your anchor. Clarity will guide your decisions. Alignment will guard your steps. You will no longer second-guess every move because your spirit will recognize what belongs to you. And when doors open, you will walk through them without fear because you are not stepping into the unknown. You are stepping into what has been prepared. This future is not wishful thinking. It is the natural result of endurance, obedience, and refinement. The chapter has turned, and what comes next will confirm everything you survived to get here. And it's important to understand what this moment truly is, because what you are hearing is not motivation, it is revelation. Motivation excites for a moment and fades when pressure returns. Revelation anchors. Even when circumstances don't shift immediately, what is being released now does not depend on emotion. It rests on truth. That is why it feels weighty, calm, and certain, rather than loud or frantic. Heaven is not trying to hype you. It is unveiling what has already been decided. Hidden things are being revealed, not because you forced understanding, but because the time for concealment has ended. What was once protected by delay is now released through readiness. You are beginning to see patterns clearly, why certain things didn't work, why certain doors stayed closed, why certain relationships ended without explanation. The fog is lifting, not gradually, but decisively. Revelation always brings clarity, and clarity always brings peace. Delays are turning into releases. What felt like denial was actually reservation held back for the proper moment. And now that moment has arrived. Blockages that resisted you for years are being removed, not through struggle, but through authority. When heaven speaks, resistance dissolves. You are not pushing forward anymore. You are being led forward. This marks the official end of an old season. Not emotionally ended, spiritually concluded. That chapter has closed, and it will not reopen. The lessons have been learned. The testing has been completed. The refinement has done its work. You are not returning to who you were because who you were could not carry where you are going. A new life has begun, not in theory, but in reality. You are stepping into a version of yourself that is aligned, aware, and anchored. Old fears no longer have the same voice. Old limitations no longer have the same authority. Old cycles no longer have permission to repeat. This is revelation because it doesn't ask you to imagine a better future. It reveals the one already in motion. And as you receive this truth, something within you recognizes it. Not excitement alone, but assurance. Not hope alone, but knowing. The season has changed, and you are already walking in the beginning of it. And as this revelation settles into place, heaven offers confirmation, not through noise, but through resonance. This is where identity is sealed, not by external approval, but by internal recognition. If you feel a warmth in your chest, a calm spreading through your body, a quiet vibration beneath the surface, or a deep sense of peace that words can't fully explain, that is not imagination. That is alignment. When truth meets readiness, the spirit responds before the mind catches up. This confirmation is gentle because it is secure. God does not need to shout when the work is complete. The peace you feel now is not relief alone, it is recognition. Your spirit knows it has reached a turning point. What once stirred anxiety now produces assurance. What once triggered fear now brings clarity. This is the soundless yes of heaven echoing within you. Let this truth settle fully. You were never forgotten. Not in the silence, not in the waiting, not in the hidden seasons where it felt like everyone else was moving forward while you stood still. You were never rejected, even when doors closed abruptly or relationships dissolved without explanation. You were never abandoned, even when prayers seemed unanswered. Positioning was happening all along, in ways you couldn't see at the time but can now begin to recognize. Your destiny was written before time began, before circumstances tried to redefine you, before pain attempted to label you, before delay tried to discourage you. Nothing you walked through erased it. Nothing you endured disqualified you. Every step seen and unseen was woven into the process of preparation. Even your missteps were redeemed and redirected. This moment is not just confirmation of a message, it is confirmation of identity. You are who God said you are. The calling didn't fade. The purpose didn't expire. The promise didn't change. It waited. And now, as your spirit responds, with peace rather than panic, you can trust what you're sensing. This is not coincidence. This is not emotional suggestion. This is the quiet sealing of a truth your soul has always known. You were being positioned for this moment, and now you are standing in it. And as this revelation reaches its resting place within you, it now asks for a response, not out of pressure, but out of alignment. Moments like this are not meant to pass silently. When heaven speaks, the soul responds. That response does not begin with action alone, but with agreement. So right where you are, let your heart speak before your hands do. If this word has met you, if something within you has settled, awakened, or stood up straight again, then declare it openly. Type the words, "I'm ready," for what God is revealing, not as a ritual, but as a witness. Declarations anchor revelation. What is spoken in faith becomes established in the Spirit. And as you respond, know that you are not responding alone. There is a remnant gathering, quiet, faithful, awakened ones who recognize truth when they hear it. This is not just a message, it is a meeting place. When you like this message and choose to stay connected by subscribing, you are not following a channel. You are stepping into a community of shared discernment, growth, and spiritual momentum. This is how isolation breaks. This is how faith is strengthened. We walk further when we walk together. Let this also be clear, this is not the conclusion of your story. It is not even the climax. This is the unveiling of a new chapter. What has begun here will continue to unfold in clarity, in timing, and instruction. God is not finished speaking to you. What you sense today is the beginning of a conversation that will grow sharper, deeper, and more personal as you continue forward. And for those who feel led to support this work, to sow into the soil that nourishes messages like this, know that your generosity carries weight. It is not obligation, it is partnership. Every seed sown in faith extends the reach of light, strengthens the ministry, and allows this word to reach other chosen ones who are still searching for confirmation. Thank you for your kindness, your trust, and your heart. May peace guard your spirit. May clarity guide your steps. May courage rise where hesitation once lived. And may you walk forward knowing this truth with confidence. You are ready, you are aligned, and this is only the beginning.